back, everyone. We're just about to start the next block, targeting the Asia Pacific region. We have some fantastic speakers lined up for you, but to kick things off, we have Alex Kingsbury. She is our regional director for the APAC region. She has been our regional director for several years now, and she is one of the longer standing members of the Women in 3D printing community. So I'm really excited to have her here on stage. Go ahead, Alex, and turn your camera on.
Hi, Kristen.
All right, perfect. I'll leave it to you then.
One question.
Oh.
What's the 3D printer in your background?
My 3D printer in my background is a Prusa. So I just put it together this last weekend with my daughter, actually. She's 7 years old, and we spent the weekend putting it together. It was one of the kits. It was really fun. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Good for you. I have a Prusa as well, and also sharing the joys with my kids. And I find it's a really great way for them to understand, what mummy does, even if what mummy does is not play with Prusas for a living. But
exactly. Exact same right here. Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
All right. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Kingsbury. As Kristen said, I'm Regional Director of APAC for Women in 3D Printing. It's an organisation I've been involved with. I was trying to count back, actually. I think it's been about 5 years. And that started with starting up the Melbourne chapter here in Australia. And around the same time, we started a Sydney chapter. And that was really the first time Women in 3D Printing came to Australia. So anyway, I'm really happy to share with you a couple of my thoughts on the region and also some of the things that we've got going on here in APAC, but also more broadly about the organisation itself, Women in 3D Printing, and why I belong to it and really enjoy contributing and participating in the community. So the mission, which I think is so beautifully encapsulated in this statement here, which is of Women in 3D Printing, is to support an industry that's more representative of the world in which it operates. And I think that's a really lovely sentiment. I think initially the mission of Women in 3D Printing was about closing the gender gap. But actually, the mission now is it's much more inclusive in its nature. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about Women in 3D Printing. The very ethos of the organisation is that it's very inclusive of everyone from all walks of life, from all different parts of 3D printing and all parts of the world. So in that spirit, I'd like to also share with you something that's pretty common custom here in Australia, and that's called an acknowledgement of country. In Australia, we like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Indigenous people in Australia, who are one of the longest living civilizations in this world, 60,000 years, in fact. And personally, I come from an area called Melbourne, otherwise known as Naarm in the Indigenous language. And the traditional custodians where I live, or where I'm coming to you from today, are the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. So connection to land is very important to Indigenous people. And I really appreciate that part of their culture and their traditions. Because one of the things I love to do is get out in the garden. I really love my garden, and I've shared some pictures here with you today of the garden that I get to enjoy every day. And if any of you follow me on Twitter, I actually just posted up a photo of some massive sunflowers I've just grown. So yeah, really appreciating the rhythms and harmonies and cycles of the earth that where I live locally is one of the ways in which I like to appreciate the land and also the culture. But anyway, like I said, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respects to their elders past and present, and anyone here today who's of Indigenous heritage. In that same spirit, the other thing I'd like to do is say Happy New Year, because actually we are right in the middle of the Lunar New Year, which is the year of the rabbit. And I know that this is a really important and very significant holiday for many people across Asia. And if you are here today with us, coming from that part of the world, my sincere thanks and appreciation for being with us, because I know that this is a really big and significant holiday for you. It's a time that you spend with family. If anyone's ever traveled through Asia through the Lunar New Year, it is absolutely hectic. Everyone is on their mission to get home because there's really nothing else to celebrate in the year, or nothing better to celebrate in the year than Lunar New Year. It's a really important holiday, and this year is Year of the Rabbit, which I was just doing some reading before, and it signifies a calm and gentle animal, but also time of year, or time for us this year. And I was thinking about that and thinking about some of the talks I attended earlier today. In particular, one of the panels was on avoiding burnout. And one of the other things about Year of the Rabbit is that it should be a year of balance. So I thought that was it was really nice, because that was touched upon quite a lot in the panel in burnout, which was around, just being able to achieve the balance in your life, so that, ultimately we can all go on and be really good at the things that we need to be good at. And we can't do that if we're going to get burnout, right? Here's just a little slide on women in 3D printing itself. There are lots of different elements and aspects to women in 3D printing. You can see those all around here. TIPE 3D happens every year, virtually from all around the world. It is just such a testament to all of the volunteers and people that we have in our community that are willing to contribute, to share knowledge, and to network. So there is so many opportunities opened up by women in 3D printing, both at a chapter level, at a very grassroots level, but also at a very global level. So speaking of which, we've got lots of things on within Women in 3D Printing. And here is just a selection of a couple of things that Women in 3D Printing does. We are 100% volunteer, organised and driven. So, it's really just down to all of our volunteers that we owe all of these different programs and events and things that we do, things that we can offer you as being part of this community. And honestly, being part of this community is not hard. You just need to say, I'm a part of this community, and, we'll take you with open arms. So it's, there's so many different things that you can access at various different points in your career through Women in 3D Printing. For me personally, it's just been an absolute game changer, particularly when it comes down to networking. It means that if I attend an event on the other side of the world, I already feel like I know a lot of people there. So very much encourage you, if you haven't already, to try and engage with your local level of membership. And we'll get a bit to that in a second, because we have presence all around the world. And I mean, this is really exemplified in the TIPE 3D printing conference, as you've all been able to see, operating across all these crazy time zones with speakers from all over the world. And you can see that all there. When it comes to our area of the world, though, APAC, I should have mentioned we have regional directors. So as part of the leadership of Women in 3D Printing, we have Kristen, of course, our president. We have the Women in 3D Printing board as well. And then we have these regional directors, of which I'm one for APAC. Each of us are doing our intros for our areas. And you get to meet them if you're tuning in when they're presenting. But down to APAC, we have 7 different countries. We have 18 different chapters. There are 4 of us area managers and 23 chapter ambassadors. You're probably wondering why there's a difference between chapters and chapter ambassadors. That's because it's absolutely okay to manage a chapter with someone else, being a co-ambassador. It's actually a really nice way of being able to work with someone else in your area, being able to share the load. Like I mentioned, this is all volunteer run. So, this is really important too. And we're talking about balance, aren't we? So let's try and share the volunteer load between all of us. If we look at APAC, these are our active chapters. Of course, I would love to see more. We have an incredible presence in China and India, which is really heartening to see. It would be lovely to see some more chapters being active in Australia and New Zealand as well. These are our area managers. So we have Swati in India. She's actually going to be moderating the economics track just coming up now. We've got Eve Tan in Singapore, and she's going to be moderating the people track. You find that volunteers tend to volunteer for loads of different things. So And we've got Miao Miao in China, so who's our area manager for China, and me, and I'm managing Oceania, which is Australia, New Zealand, and Japan. So we are your points of contact for any of the chapter ambassadors in order to set up a chapter, and get going in your local area. Here are some of our local chapter ambassadors, not all of them, but just a selection. Very proud of our local chapter ambassadors. Really, all the other things that Women in 3D Printing is able to offer, things like TIPE, things like, the speaker database, things like the mentorship program, they're all fantastic, but operating at a grassroots level is actually how Women in 3D Printing started. It was very much a very localized event type organization. So our local chapters are really where the rubber hits the road, and it's really how people often first engage with Women in 3D Printing. So these people are really, really important to us. And just a little snippet of some of the events that we've held in our local chapters. Here are some really nice photos, lots of smiling faces, and yeah, that's a little bit of an example of what local events look like. They're usually pretty informal, pretty casual, and it's just a really great opportunity to be able to meet people. And the amount of people that we've been able to introduce to each other and fantastic connections that have been made has been really invaluable. I also want to give a really special shout out to Eve Tan, who I hope is in the audience, who organised MEMR last year. That stands for Manufacturing, Education, Medical, Robotic, which was the Women in 3D Printing Asia Conference. That was a 2-day event just in the evenings. Again, it was virtual, but it was really great to be able to hold something that was in the Asian time zone, and it was all Asian speakers or people from APAC. So yeah, again, fabulous volunteer effort from Eve to be able to organize that. She does a really great job, and being able to stay connected virtually is really important as well. We also do some virtual happy hours, which again are pretty informal, and everyone is welcome. Again, back on our chapter ambassadors, please, if you're interested in starting a chapter in your area, then just hit me up on my email or go to the Women in 3D Printing website and go to the Get Involved tab and submit something. It'll come through to me. I'd love to hear from you and talk about what setting up a chapter looks like, what the commitments looks like, or just even how to get more involved in Women in 3D Printing, the organisation. So that's all from me. I'm really looking forward to the next block of speakers. I know we have I've been having a look at the agenda, and we have some really great talks, a lot of bio-inspired talks. We have a talk from April on, being a maker. One of the things that's really strong in our area is the maker scene, and so it's really great to celebrate that. And speaking of celebrating people, I love celebrating other women's achievements, and I want to say a very big hearty congratulations to Veena Nair. So Veena was just very recently awarded the Prime Minister's Prize for Excellence in Science Teaching. Veena actually teaches at my old high school, so it's got a very personal note to me. And it's really lovely to see all of her hard work recognised in such a prestigious way. So well done, Veena. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and please enjoy the rest of your tracks. We are now fully fledged with technology, industry, people, and economics all going ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. That was a fantastic overview. I love it. That was so wonderful. You covered everything in your presentation. So thank you very much.